Hey guys. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with Unit 13, Excretion in Humans. Now, when we look at excretion, we are going to look mainly at the urinary system and the kidney and the functions of the kidney as well as kidney failure. But there are a few other parts of our body that are responsible for excretion. So let's go ahead and get started with section 13.1. The excretory system. Now, when we look at excretory products, we need to understand that we have to remove waste from our body. The two main organs that do this are our lungs and kidneys, but the liver also has a vital role in excretion. So if you look at this chart right here, you've got your lungs and kidneys, what they mainly excrete. Our lungs mainly are responsible for excreting carbon dioxide, which is a waste product that you learned was a product of respiration during exhalation. And then the kidneys release excess water as well as salts and something called urea, which we'll talk about a little bit more in the future unit sections. Now, the kidneys excrete excess water and excess salts and urea that's formed in the liver from excess amino acids by producing urine. So that's where the liver is involved and comes into play. Okay. As far as our need for excretion, ultimately, we have to remove waste substances for our metabolic reactions to occur, because if we have too many waste products, those become toxic materials. So we must get rid of them. Carbon dioxide must be excreted as it dissolves in water easily to form an acidic solution, which can lower the pH level in many of our cells, which can be very dangerous for us. And that ultimately reduces the activity of enzymes, which are essential for controlling metabolic reactions. So if we have too much carbon dioxide in our bodies, that becomes toxic. And then urea is also toxic to the body in higher concentrations and must be excreted through the kidneys. Now, where the liver comes into play is with that urea. The liver ultimately is responsible for taking excess amino acids that are absorbed in the blood and not being used to make very important proteins in our body. And these amino acids that cannot be stored must be broken down in a process that we refer to as deamination, because they're amino acids. So that's where the D, removal, amination, so amino is the root of that word, nation at the end, the suffix. So looking at enzymes in the liver, they break down those amino acids and ultimately remove them by changing the nitrogen to ammonia, which is highly toxic. It's then converted into urea, which is less toxic, and urea is dissolved in the blood, taken to the kidneys to then be excreted. A small amount of this urea is also excreted in our sweat through our pores and our skin, so that's just something to keep in mind as well. Okay? Now, this is a view of an amino acid, so just a small recap. So for deamination, the nitrogen-containing amino acid group is removed and converted into that ammonia that's then turned into urea to be excreted by the kidney. So you have your amino group with that nitrogenous base. This is what makes a protein different than, let's say, a carbohydrate or a lipid. And then you'll have your carboxylic acid group, okay? And then just an exam tip to wrap us up today. Excretion is the removal of bodily waste products from metabolic reactions or toxic substances and excess requirements. But egestion is the expulsion of undigested food waste from the anus. So excretion is the removal of bodily waste. Egestion is actually that expulsion of just undigested food. So make sure you understand the differences between excretion and egestion. All right, head on over to your CFU and your notes and get started with today's word. Good job, guys.